Hello everyone, this is Just a Dad. Today I'm going to show you how to descale this Keurig K-Duo Essentials coffee maker. So up here at the top, we've got this blue light. Now if the blue light is flashing, that means your add water sensor. You're needing to add water to the reservoir. If it's on steady, that means it is time to descale it. Now I have a separate video if your add water light is not going out. So say you fill your water reservoir up with water that is still flashing at you. I have a separate video on how to clean that vent tube out for the add water light. Over here I've got one that I've taken apart. There's the add water sensor, and up here there's a vent tube. But this video is going to deal with if that descale light is on steady. We're going to try to get that out. Okay, so the manual that comes with it talks about descaling, but it has you go online and find the use and care guide. So on the Keurig website, there is a use and care guide under their help section, and it does talk about descaling your coffee maker. I followed this step by step in an earlier video. I don't think it's correct. So in that video, it doesn't have you use very much descaling solution. I've used vinegar and the descaling solution, which I'm going to show you how to use both. And I have a generic one here also. But if you followed their directions step by step, you're going to end up running the Keurig dry because you're not adding enough solution and water in the back, and you're pressing the 12 button and it just sucks in a bunch of air, and I don't agree with doing that to these machines. Okay, so let's start off. Your caraffe's going to be empty. Make sure your filter basket, you have to have this installed, but don't put any filter or coffee. Just put that in there empty, and make sure there's no K-cup. Your needle basket has to be installed, but no K-cup. Okay, so I like to use vinegar. You can use the descaling solution, and you can use this generic, but you're going to have to dilute it 50-50. And we're going to need to fill it all the way up to the 12 mark on this carafe. So the carafe is just a really good measuring device for this. So you can use distilled white vinegar or just regular white vinegar. Fill it up to the 6 mark on the carafe. And then you're going to go from the 6 to the 12 with fresh water. Now, if I use the Keurig descaling solution, it's only 14 ounces, so it's not going to fill it up very much, but you do need a bunch of liquid. So you can just fill it up. You can dump this whole contents in here and then fill it up to the 12 or maybe about the 10 mark with just water, but it's going to be super diluted. And same with this. So you could use 2 of these and then fill it up to the 12 mark, and you could use 2 of these and then fill it up to the 12 mark. But this descaling solution is kind of expensive. Vinegar is a cheaper solution. Now, I do like the Keurig descaling solution. I think it's easier to rinse at the end, but again, it is more expensive. The vinegar does a good job of descaling, but at the end when you're doing the freshwater rinses, I think you have to do just a couple more because the taste and smell kind of lingers a little bit. Okay, so empty out your water reservoir, or if there's a little bit left in the bottom, that's fine. We just don't want that filled up with water. If your small handle water filter is installed, go ahead and take it out. You don't want to run the vinegar through it. Now, your machine does not have to have this to operate, and it doesn't come with it, so you may or may not have this. Okay, so here I've got the 50-50 vinegar and water. We're going to pour it in the back here. Okay, so that puts it almost to the 10 cup mark on the side of this water reservoir. You want to make sure you're filled up to at least the 10 cup mark. Okay, so here I've got one that's opened up. Let's talk about what we're descaling. We've got a tank inside here, and this is what heats the water up and then sends it either to the carafe side or the K-cup side. Now, typically, I've taken several Keurigs apart that have been old, used heavily. Typically, you don't get calcium buildup in the plastic tubing. I've never even seen any mold in the plastic tubing. So that doesn't necessarily need clean, but it is going to run through there. What we're really wanting to clean is inside this tank, a heating element. So this is out of a K-Mini, but it's the same theory behind what's inside there. So I've taken it apart. Inside there, the water is going to be here. There's your heating element. Now, your hard water mineral deposits are going to stick to this heating element, and you're going to get calcium buildup in this tank right here. So we want to make sure the vinegar or the descaling solution is going to run through this tank, but we also want to let it sit for 30 minutes. So letting it sit around this heating element is going to help break free or help keep this area clean. Now, what can happen if you haven't descaled in a really long time, you can get some pretty big chunks inside here of calcium buildup. And when you do this, it could clog the inside of the machine. Now, some reasons to descale is, so say you're pressing the 8-ounce button on the K-cup side and you're not getting the full 8 ounces, that could be a really good indication that it's time to descale. And if your coffee's not as hot as it used to be, so if you're not getting about a 170-degree cup of coffee when you're finished, that could also be a sign that it's time to descale. So there's only one heating element. That's for the craft side and the K-Cup side. So we are going to run a little bit of vinegar through the K-Cup side, but the majority of it's going to run through the craft side. But when we're all done, we don't want the tank, the water tank back here, we don't want it to run empty, because then the pump's going to pump air and it's going to pump it into this, and it may pump some of the vinegar out of here. And we want that vinegar to sit in there and soak. So there is no special descale mode you put the machine in. You're simply going to be running it through as if you were doing a K-Cup or a craft. I don't know exactly how that light lights. I don't know if there's a sensor that senses hard water. You know, my thought is the other ones do it after so many brews, like the new Keurig Case Supremes. That light comes on after 250 brews, no matter how bad it is on the inside. But maybe this one it can sense how dirty your coffee maker is, but there is no mode to put it in. So it may not go out at the end of this procedure. And I think that's why it's important to stay on top of it. They say to descale this every 3 months and just kind of keep up on that to keep it clean. Once it gets extremely built up with calcium inside here, you may not get it to ever clean up, and that light may never go out. Okay, so I have a container here. We're going to lift the lid, make sure no K-Cup. Press the ounce button and just do an 8 ounce. That's going to run some water and vinegar through the K-Cup side. Now you'll hear it's heating up the water inside there, and we're wanting to get that vinegar down into that heating element. Okay, so after about 30 seconds, it does start to brew the water and vinegar through the K-Cup side. Okay, so it brewed 8 ounces in there. Now here's the important step. Don't go below this 8 ounce mark. If it's below this 8 ounce mark, fill it up a little bit with just some water, or maybe add a little more vinegar. But now we're going to do an 8 cup on the carafe, and this way it will not run the water reservoir dry. Okay, the carafe's empty. We've got the filter basket installed. Let's press the cups button and just do the 8 ounce, okay? It's going to run 8 cups on the carafe side. It's not going to empty out this water reservoir. In the manual, they want you to do 12 on the K-Cup side and then 12 on the carafe side. And it ends up running everything completely dry. And I think we can achieve the same result without running the machine dry. The process is we want to get that vinegar in that tank there. We want to let it soak for 30 minutes. And at the end, the fresh water rinses are very simple. Okay, so now we're starting to get some of the water and vinegar to run through on this side. It may smell a little bit. When vinegar is heated up, it does smell a little bit. You may notice just a little calcium deposits in this, and that's fine. Now, typically when I use this generic descaler, you'll kind of notice it kind of foaming up quite a bit. I don't sense that as much. It seems a little sudsy when I use the Keurig descaling solution. So this is going to take about 4 minutes to run up to the 8 cup mark on the carafe side. Okay, so it's finishing up. Now we're going to do one more step. Up here, what's going to happen is it's going to turn the warming plate on when it's done. That green light's going to turn to red. That's going to tell us that it's done brewing, but it turned the warming plate on. We want to turn that off. So there, it just turned it on. So press and hold this button. That turns that red light off. Now that warming plate, it's not going to warm up that vinegar. Now, I suggest letting this sit for 30 minutes. Let it sit inside the carafe. It's going to help clean it. And around back, let it sit back here because it's going to help clean up hard water deposits inside your water tank. But again, very important, we didn't run the machine dry. And up here, you may see some hard water deposits inside here also. So letting it sit 30 minutes, it's going to do two things. It's going to let the coffee maker kind of cool down. Now, there is no reset thermostat, so if it stops working completely, like if you lose, like all the lights don't light up anymore, there's nothing to reset inside. It's just broke. So letting it rest for 30 minutes kind of helps let everything kind of cool down, but the main thing is it's letting it really clean that heating element in there. Okay, so it's been 30 minutes. Let's go empty this out, and we're going to empty this out and fill this up with just fresh water. I do like to just kind of rinse the filter basket out, and I'm going to rinse the water reservoir out also and fill it up with fresh water. So Miss Fiona's been helping me with my video today. Okay, so my water tank is filled up with fresh water now. We got to do some very important fresh water rinsing. So we're going to do the K-Cup side again, make sure there's no K-Cup. Press the ounce button and just do, you can do 18 or 12, but we're going to do quite a few. We want to do about 3 or 4 on the K-Cup side, and we're going to do about 2 or 3 full pots of just water on the craft side. That's going to make sure that there's no vinegar left in any of these lines, and especially that water tank in there. There's kind of a closer up of the actual steel part of the water tank. Now it's also to kind of, you don't want to hurry up and do all of these really quick. You do want to kind of let it rest in between them a little bit too, just to keep the machine from overheating. I typically I'll do the K-cup, a full pot of carafe, let it sit for about 10 minutes and then to repeat it. Carafe, K-cup. And again, make sure the reservoir is full at all this time. You're going to keep filling that water reservoir up so that it never runs dry. Okay, so then now let's press the cups button and let's do a full 12 cups on the carafe side. And again, at the end of that, make sure you can turn the heating plate off by holding that button again and turning the red light off. Then you just do the K-cup side and the carafe side. Again, I typically do 3. Sometimes I might have to go up to 4 times on each one. At the end of this, your coffee should be a lot hotter and you should be getting the proper amount of water through the K-cup. I know this video is a little long, but they sell a lot of these coffee makers. This is a very, very popular coffee maker. And in my comments, I get a lot of comments on that add water light and the descale light. And again, I earlier did a video on how to descale this. I think it works okay. What I did is I read the manual step by step. And even while I was reading it, I'm like, well, this doesn't seem quite right. But I was an aircraft mechanic for a long time, so I'm used to reading manuals and doing things step by step. So that's what I did. But now, after rethinking this and seeing all the comments from different videos, I think this is the correct way to descale this coffee maker. And again, I think what happens a lot of times, sometimes these things just stop working after a while, and maybe you've never descaled it, so they might have just clogged up completely on the inside. So I think it is, even if your light doesn't come on, if you have hard water, so say, like your shower head, if it's got a bunch of white calcium buildup around the shower head, that means you have hard water. And so you would probably want to descale this every 2 to 3 months for sure. Now, people talk about types of water you use. Now, Keurig says not to use, so you'll see sometimes Keurig says not to use distilled water. I think that has to do with kind of the sensors they have inside here. They kind of need that minerals in the water for their sensors to work. Now, a lot of people use bottled water and filtered water. Now, I use just regular tap water out of my tap. It's not super hard, so that's what I use. But I've had several people say they've used distilled water and never had a problem. I just don't know the exact answer for that, but Keurig does, you will see in their manuals quite a bit, don't use distilled water. And if you're using this filter, this is an add-on for this. This only takes away like the chlorine taste and smell. This doesn't take away any of the hardness of the water. So again, if you're having trouble with the add water light flashing, that means there's a clog probably in that vent tube. I can show you there's a really easy way to take the top off, and you can probably clean that, or probably clean it and fix it. But other than that, the way this machine is taken apart right here, I had to break it pretty much. You cannot take it apart to this level right here. If you could hit the thumbs up button down below, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks everybody so much for watching and supporting my channel. And if you could, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.